This is Matt Hamilton and Robert Gentile here.
Hello.
We're at US Karate Systems, and we're getting ready to choreograph the underwater scuba fight. In this particular scenario, the bad guy here has a knife. Okay? The hero of this story here does not have a knife. We are underwater, and so a lot of the standard knife defenses, when we have the ability to have lots of gravity and push off things, kind of doesn't work anymore with being underwater, because our push-pull changes, our ability to root on the ground changes, our ability to do various things like this, all kind of changes in terms of things that we may want to do in terms of knife defenses. So anyway, so you got to understand that my standard approach towards a knife coming at me is to take my leading hand and capture the weapon hand as best I possibly can. If I capture just the weapon arm, it allows him lots of free movement to do all kinds of evil things. If I capture the blade, well, that's going to be a cut, and he's going to get out very quickly. So God gave this wonderful handle here of his hand. Now, I may end up getting high, but I'm going to shift down low. I'm going to get what I can get to stop the thrust of the weapon, and then I'm going to ultimately get to where I can get some kind of a handle. Okay? Ultimately, that should make sense here. Now, keeping in mind that underwater, either he's wearing a wetsuit, so he's tacky, or he's not, so he's slippery. If that makes sense. He's got regular skin underwater. Okay, plus, we don't move nearly as fast in water as we do, in air. And I've lost some buoyancy issues here. So, anyway, so in this particular attack, what happens at the end of this deal is the bad guy needs to look like he was an accidental drowning. So this is where I'm going with this particular scenario. So one of the things we're going to do here is understand that, a lot of these knife disarms that we might want to do ain't going to work underwater. Too buoyant, too many issues here. You can't move. See, I'm moving my feet. I'm not going to be able to move my feet. Essentially, it's going to be, jiu-jitsu. I'm going to have him around here with my little flippers. Okay, so we're going to have to employ some firefighting techniques, some Jeet Kune Do techniques, and a little grappling, a little jiu-jitsu, and then a little understanding of the human anatomy. Okay, so in this particular deal here, so he doesn't stab himself, because I did this. Let me come back on camera. Take this one from me. I stabbed myself using Grace, who's our current camera person right now. She's 13 years old, and she ended up stabbing me with this thing in this particular technique. So what I've got is a very blunt instrument here. Actually, let me do this real quick. A diving knife, which is going to be used in this scenario, is double-bladed, incredibly sharp, and really hard to take away. There's nothing to get a hold of, okay, other than the person's weapon hand. Is this in frame? Mm-hmm. Okay, does that make sense? So this is a cutting knife nightmare. And as my good friend Chris Park says, it is not a knife fight, it is a knifing. Somebody's going to get stuck, and that's just the way it's going to be. So in order to not stab my buddy with a sharp knife, we're going to use a very dull replicant here of a knife. So in my mind, I tend to start to, when a knife comes at me, grab it with my leading hand and shy away from it to get myself space. Underwater, I'm probably not going to have that opportunity. So either one of the things, I'm going to grab it here and I'm going to jump hand, or I'm going to capture it here, all with the intent of stopping the arm and using essentially a pak sao to stop the arm, followed by a jet sao, which is to take the weapon towards the bad guy. Now, in this little world here, I'm going straight for his scuba mask, with the intent that, just like if you're trying to get into a car windshield, I'm going to stab the scuba mask, water is going to infiltrate the mask. So that's one of the reasons why I have this for Robert. Okay? So now, when he stabs at me, okay, and I do this, I don't kill my good buddy. Okay, so now I've stabbed him right here in the scuba mask. I simply come up underneath here, controlling my opponent. Right between L5 and 6 is the ability to cause permanent paralysis in the legs. Meanwhile, his lungs still work. Now, the easiest way to take a knife away from somebody who's like that is when it's in their physical body. So now I can take the knife from him. I take the knife, and as he bends, so I've got his hair, I'm now able to stick the knife between C3 and C4, okay, which causes permanent paralysis of the arms, but allows the chest to continue to work. C2 and C3, instant death. If I go to C4, C5, arms still work, okay, lungs still work. Well, I want his arms to no longer work, so we're going to go between C3, C4, right up here. And then simply from here, the rest of the fight scene is I'm going to push the gentleman down into the net that is going to be entangled. And at that point in time, since he can still breathe, I will remove his respirator. He will then drown because his lungs still work, even though his arms don't. And my spine surgeon that I covered all this material with said that by the entry point of the knife being a diver's knife, they're so surgical that once you bend the vertebrae and they open like this, sliding the knife through here, and as the person stretches back up, it cuts off the blood supply to the wound. It closes the wound. So the sharks will not be eating this person, because he will now be erect. He will be drowning. So when they do the autopsy, they will assume the person drowned and not died from the 2 stab wounds that are here in the vertebrae. So that's essentially the knife fight one last time. He comes at me. Okay, I died. He comes at me. See, that's why I have to go the leading end. He stabbed here, here, and now I can take him wherever he needs to go. All right? That's it. Thank you.